Hi, this is Jacinta and G here. I'm married and family therapist, and this is Blossoming Marriage Academy. Blossoming Marriage Academy is an initiative of Royal Life Springs. And at Royal Life Springs, we are very passionate about empowering couples and families to thrive and to blossom. Today we have a very interesting topic and an awesome guest and speaker. We are talking about intentional fathering of sons. Before we go on, please help me welcome our guest today. He will introduce himself to us and tell us what he does. Welcome, Boniface.
Thank you, Ma'am Jacinta. Boniface Nyoikengang are my three names.
An author.
Yes, I'm an author of 4 books for men now. The first one was called Towards Authentic Manhood, that basically tried to create a script that men can use to live an authentic life.
Yes.
Then I did my second one for men. It is called The Hub is Hub, which speaks to the whole area of marriage and men and how to love and lead your wife with authenticity. Then I did a third one when I discovered a lot of the issues we are having with men are centered on character development. So that one is called The Quest for Authentic Character, and it basically challenges men to define masculinity based on character and not achievements, because achievement without character is a hollow achievement. But when you achieve what you achieved the right way, then you become somebody who is honorable in society. Then I did a fourth one called The Dive, and The Dive is basically how to live in 4 ways: a daring life, a life of integrity, a life of vision, and a life of excellence. Because I think those are the 4 marks that define the life of a man that optimizes his masculinity. So beyond that, I also run a program for men. It's called Authentic Man Program, where we challenge men to become authentic men within their space and within their age. Because I feel like a lot of men have under a lot of pressure to live life based on performance, based on a script that has a standard that is unreachable. But authenticity is a standard that is reachable for every man. And authenticity is basically about living a life of discipline, dignity, and boldness, so that you live out the best version of you as a man. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Wow, awesome. And each one of us should endeavor to be authentic.
Yes.
And interesting, you and I connected through one of your books. As a matter of fact, one of us in our couples group had read your book. And that is how we connected. Now, Boniface, other than being an author, you are also a family man. A beautiful family. Tell us a little bit about your family.
I'm married to one beautiful Mary Ngonya from Kiambu County.
That's where I'm married also. Good place.
Yes, a good place to get a wife for those men that are single. And I'm privileged to be a father of 3, 2 boys and 1 girl. My first born is Jeremy, my second born is Jaden, my third born is Jewel. All of them, you notice, begin with J. So something about J that inspires. Even Jesus begins with J.
I also have a Jeremy. And mine too begins with a J.
Awesome.
So wow, today is an interesting day because we're talking about being an intentional father to a son. You know the narrative that is going on about your boy child. And how parents have failed. And how we need to do something because our girls are so empowered. Maybe before we go there, what kind of a relationship did you have with your dad?
My dad, by the way, he was called Jesse Lawrence Younger. Interestingly, it also begins with a J. And my journey with my father was one very unique one, because my dad was very intentional about connecting with us, because we are 2 boys in our family and a girl. And my elder brother, who is called David, was also very close to my dad. Apparently, one of the things I realized about my dad is he grew up in a family where his father was absent, because my grandfather was like those men who used to go to work far and then come home like twice a year or thrice a year to just bond with the family. But for my dad, I think he took that and he realized that he needed to be a very present dad for us. So I remember even when he would go for trips outside Nairobi, he would actually plan to accommodate us in those trips. I remember the first time I went to Mombasa, that was I think in 1994. I went with my dad and we had the whole week, just me and my dad in Mombasa. And I can tell you the lessons learned in those times of bonding, not just by instruction, but more so by example. Just seeing how he carried himself was scripted in my heart until today.
That's right.
And one of the most powerful lessons I learned from my dad is that your son may listen to your instructions, but he will model your character.
Wow.
So when I started working for Posta, my dad apparently also worked for Posta, which is where I also went to work. I remember when we were growing up, we grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of our parents were working for Posta, and we would see the other kids with, Posta pens, Posta books, and we would tell our dad, why can't you bring us these things like these other kids? And my dad would tell us, what is your employers is your employers. It is for use at work, not at home.
Wow.
And guess what? As I grew up, that became scripted in my heart. And I began to realize, your best examples are not the ones you teach as a father, they are the ones you model. So beyond all my dad taught me, his loudest instructions were by example. And I think that affected me in such a profound way. One of my biggest aspirations in life is to make my dad proud because of the kind of example he set for me.
And I'm sure he's so proud of you wherever he is.
He was an incredible
dad. And that's an awesome relationship.
Yes.
I say awesome because today, not many sons can say that. But of course, there are those examples like you are there, maybe not highlighted, but what is highlighted or what we know, the narrative going on is not a good one. But I'm just curious, what would you say to somebody who did not have an experience like the one you had with your dad?
I'll tell you, one of the things that I've discovered is that
a boy
growing up. And this is what I've discovered. When you grow up in an environment and you discover that probably the example you're getting is not befitting for where you want to go, you need to realize that fatherhood is not biological per se. Fatherhood is a function of transference of values. So what you need to do, honor your father regardless of his character and behavior, but look for an example that can allow a mentor, a coach, somebody who can model the right values for you, and somebody who can transmit the right virtues to you. Because fatherhood is about those two things, transferring values and modeling virtues. And guess what? Within every space, there is always a man that you can model after can make you become a better man. So one of the things that I often encourage young people to do, especially, is never use the dysfunction of your dad to explain your dysfunction. You have a responsibility. Don't justify it. Realize that it's there, but find a way of fixing it. And that means you have to take personal responsibility. Maturity doesn't begin when you grow old. It begins when you take responsibility to fix those areas that have been dysfunctional in your family so that you don't replicate them in the next generation. So find one.
And you bring out a very important aspect, self-aware.
Being self-aware,
so that you catch yourself. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it because I saw my father doing it? And I don't have to justify continuing to do that. I like that. Now, you are a father of boys and a girl. Today, the girl child is very empowered. Again, what are you doing? Because you're bringing up boys and you're bringing up a girl. What is it a father can do intentionally to be able to kind of get away from this narrative going on and bring up a son who will grow into an adult, who will grow into a husband and bring up a family like the one you're bringing up or like your daddy was bringing up the boy in you?
I'll say several things that I've found demand a lot of self-awareness, like you said, and demand a lot of initiative on your part. The first thing is you must model. You cannot influence your son if you don't model what you're trying to teach him. Boys learn by observation. And one of the things that we've got to learn is we have to find spaces to be at home to model because you cannot model when you're absent. And I think that's one of the narrative that we need to talk to a lot of men about, because a lot of men are busy chasing money, and in getting that money they are being absent at home. And guess what? Nature abhors a vacuum. If you're absent to model, there is something else that will take that place of your modeling. It may be like the house girl, it may be any other voice of influence. It may be, some of these popular musicians that are modeling a lot of dysfunctional masculinity. So the first thing is that you must model.
Yes.
Number two, beyond modeling, you must mentor.
Yes.
And mentoring means you must initiate critical conversations. One of the interesting things that I learned that changed my life, by the way, is when I read the book of Proverbs and actually realized the book of Proverbs is not a book, it's a conversation between a father and a son. That's why you find the father saying, my son do this, my son do that, my son do that. Conversations are the avenue for transmission of values. And the problem with most men is that they know how to provide, but they don't know how to communicate. Any man that wants to be a serious father must learn to communicate. You look at the story of Jesus. Jesus was always in constant communication with his father. And one of the things that you must communicate as a father is affirmation. Most fathers know how to criticize when our boys mess up, but we don't know how to affirm when they succeed. And boys thrive on affirmation. And one of the things we cannot rob them in our mentorship moments is that we must affirm them. And affirmation doesn't mean that your son is perfect. It means that you're recognizing strengths that are in his life that you want to prop up and bring out. And one of the things that I found out is that we have to train ourselves not to affirm performance. Because performance is erratic. It will not always be where you need it to be. And one of the hugest lessons that I learned again from Jesus is Jesus was affirmed by his father before he even did any miracle.
So it was not because of what he had done.
It was not performance, it was person.
Yes.
Your son has a performance, and then there is the person side of him.
Himself.
And what needs to be affirmed is not the performance. The performance needs to be recognized, but the person is what needs to be affirmed. So number one is that you model. Number two, you mentor. Number three is that you must change your dispositions as your son matures. There is no one script of fathering that will work all through life. You must monitor where your son is and monitor what pattern of fatherhood works for that part.
For that stage.
Yes, because every stage has a different disposition of fatherhood. If you don't monitor the different stages and keep adapting so that you don't lose connection, then you will lose your son in the process because you will try to use one script. For example, there are fathers who believe the only way to discipline a boy is to cane or to be abusive or to criticize. But if you don't learn the patterns of life as they are changing and adapt your method, then you will end up not being effective in the fathering journey. The last thing that I will say, above everything, fatherhood is about one word called love. And to the extent that you love is to the same extent you will be effective. Now, what does it mean to love? To love means that even when your child makes wrong decisions, you don't withdraw your love because of his behavior. And that's a lesson again we learn from Luke 15. Because Luke 15 is the parable of the prodigal son. It is not the father that became prodigal. It is the son that became prodigal. And guess what? The only reason that the son was able to go back home is that he knew my father will not change because of my prodigal behavior. So one of the things we must learn to master in fatherhood is don't ever allow prodigal behavior to lead to the withdrawal of love.
Of your love for your son.
Yes, and it's a difficult thing to do. There are times I'm tempted to do it. There are times my son will do disappointing things and I'll feel like, is even worthy of the sacrifices I'm making. But I keep being reminded of that. Fatherhood is a call to display love, not to withdraw it when somebody underperforms. So those are 4 things that I think are very critical in fatherhood.
As you speak, you take me back to my childhood.
Yes.
We are a big family. I keep saying I don't like saying how many we are because you might not recover, we might not finish this conversation.
Okay.
But I am the second born, and I have a sister who follows me, a sister who's ahead of me, and then we have our brother. And when he was little, nursery school, I don't know why he decided he doesn't want to go to school. He started going to, he would cheat his going to school, but he would go hide somewhere, come back for lunch, and go back. But I remember that time. I don't remember which parent, but my parents really whipped me.
Yes.
Until the neighbors came and said, you know what?
We're going to kill the child.
This child, let him be.
Yes.
I'm talking about performance.
Yes,
You see, now he
yes.
was not doing well in school
Yeah.
and then my parents stopped beating him. And they just, I guess, loved on him and allowed him to be.
Yes.
Today, if I tell you how much he has achieved, you'll be surprised. So I just want to underscore that point of being able to love, not based on performance. Now, I know you have your last born is a girl, and you've told us those key things that you can do, and I'm just wondering now, what difference? How different is it for you now? The way you're bringing up your daughter and the way you're bringing up your son. Because we've been accused that, like girls my daughter's age will say, what you went through, these people, we don't want that. So they are so empowered, sometimes it becomes a problem by itself. Meaning that sometimes the boys who are supposed to get married to them might find that a challenge. But whose problem is it? What are you doing, because now you have a girl and you have boys, to ensure that this girl is brought up? I mean, empowerment, I guess, is for both people. You don't want to empower a girl to oppress the boy. You don't want to empower the boy to oppress. I don't think that is what God intended. But because of the narrative going on, now that you have a girl in the midst of boys, how different is it for you when you're dealing with your daughter from when you're dealing with your...
One of the things that I've learned is that you have got to learn the way a female child and a male child processes things is very different. From the time a girl is small, you begin to see their emotional vitality.
That's right.
From the time the boy is young, you begin to see their risk-taking and logical capacities. And what you need to learn is, no matter how many generations change, the divine makeup of the different genders doesn't change. And that's what you need to write down. So that as I raise my children, I have realized that my boys want a logical answer for the things that I'm trying to teach them. So recently, my sons were asking me a very interesting question. So when we go to church, we hear people praying in tongues. So what is this praying in tongues? So what they're looking for is a logical explanation that will help them to process that idea. And one of the things that I've also seen about boys, ladies or girls will learn very well in relationship settings, but boys learn well in activity settings. So boys will not learn well when you sit them down in the house and try to teach them a lesson. Then if, for example, you're teaching a boy about, let's say, perseverance, take them out for mountain climbing. Let them do it experiential. The experiential moments are what solidify the lessons that you're trying to teach them. And that's why you find, for example, if you look at the story of David or story of different men in the Bible, most of their learnings happened outdoors. And that's one of the things we've got to learn about the boy child. And that's why boys, sometimes you'll find them not loving school, they don't love to bake, they don't love to do some of those safe things. They don't appeal to their ego. But when you take them to an environment that is experiential, you create relational learning experiences. When you want to teach them, watch a movie together that has action, then help them unpack principles they are learning, then that begins to filter the right lessons into their lives. But when you try to make learning academic for boys, they don't connect well with it. And that's why even today, when you go to classes in schools, in universities, you'll find more girls, because men don't usually connect with academic processes, contained processes. They want life in the wild. They want life. They want to explore. And that's the makeup of a man. Now, for the girls, you find that controlled environments are best for them to learn. Relational environments are best for them to learn. So one of the things that I've learned is, like now, I take my daughter out for ice cream dates, and that really makes her come alive. But for my boys, I find that when they go, I had taken them out for Karura. There's a place in Karura where they do bike riding. Those are the things that make them come alive. So you've got to learn what works for the different genders based on their divine makeup, and use a learning process that is compatible to the gender. Otherwise, if you try to use the learning process of a girl for a boy, you will miss it. If you try to use for a boy for a girl, you'll miss it. You've got to find what works, what resonates with your children, and then work with that. It often helps to filter out the lessons properly to them.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now again, you know, being a therapist, sometimes you sit in a room and the issues there, sometimes when you try to explore, you see they're really pent up feelings and emotions, especially with the boy child. I'm also wondering, what is it that you can tell our viewers? What can a father do to just facilitate that safe environment such that say, I don't know, maybe for a boy being beaten up in school by another boy and feeling, less of a, what is it that you can do so that you show that boy growing up that it is okay to have to be able to express these feelings emotionally because that's an area that men haven't done very well. That doesn't mean they don't want to, but maybe because they were brought up being told you don't cry, you don't do this, that is girl-like, that is what can one do to
what I've seen with men is contrary to what society teaches us that men don't talk. The opposite is true. What men look for, they want to talk in an environment where they'll not feel judged, where they'll not feel put down for opening up. So one of the things that I think we need to create, and especially fathers need to create this very intentionally, create safe spaces of conversations. And the only way to create a safe space is to be vulnerable first. One of the things that I've learned about my children is that I have to speak about mistakes I've made. I have to speak about times I've goofed and messed up. I was just sharing with you a story one time when I was a young boy in just the age of my firstborn son, and I went and I hopped to this pickup and the driver started speeding off, and I jumped off and I fell down, and just relating those kinds of experiences to my boys, it begins to show them that life is a journey. There is no instant maturity, but there is a journey you must be willing to take. So vulnerability from the father figure is critical if we are going to teach our sons not to have pent up, emotions that become like a volcano that is waiting to explode. If men can learn to be vulnerable, then we will not reach the volcano place where we explode. Because the problem with emotions that are suppressed is that they will wait for that opportunity when they are just triggered by the right thing, and then they will explode. And one of the things that I tell, especially men, even older men, find friends that you can be vulnerable to and that can be vulnerable to you. Because when a man doesn't have a safe space to ventilate, guess what? He will either explode with anger or he will implode with depression. Those are the two ways men process emotions. And what we're saying is, it is not a weakness to talk about your weakness. It is actually a mark of courage. And we have got to restrict our men to define strength differently. Part of the problem we have in society is that we have a misdefinition of what it means to be a strong man. Being a strong man means you abuse women, it means you become violent with children, it means that you become arrogant, it means you become greedy, materialistic. But those are wrong measures of strength. One of the things we need to do with our men, we must redefine what does it mean to be a strong man. And one of the best ways that I've found to define strength is the ability to remain controlled even when you are provoked. And that can only happen if you've been constantly finding ways to, in a healthy way, harness your emotions and channel them in a way that is not destructive.
That's right. That is awesome. I think you brought out things that are very fundamental. Because even if your biological father wasn't present and wasn't what he's supposed to be, that is no excuse.
It's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse. You can look out for a
mentor, a father figure, and work with them.
The other thing I hear coming out is that also, if I'm going to say I'm a grown man who knows I have issues because of that fathering aspect, I can look for a safe space.
You can look for
and
a safe
therapy
space.
Also is available so that you can be able to pour out these emotions. And I went for a funeral somewhere, and this guy who was a pastor said, fathers are covers. He had lost his father, and he was telling us he felt like the roof of the house had been taken away. And that tells us the kind of role and function a father plays.
Critical, very critical.
But I guess we all have a father figure we can look up to. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to have an ugly father. And I think for this and much more, I think there's a lot of things to unpack. And I would want to encourage our viewers again to register for the Blossoming Marriage Academy. And the registration is ongoing for sessions beginning first week of July. Boniface and other facilitators will be there to empower you so that your marriage can thrive and blossom. Thank you till next time. God bless and bye-bye.